There we go. Oh, there they are. Okay. I'm out.
There we are. We got admitted to the wrong room, but we're here. Can you hear us?
I wanted to say very quickly, James and Sam, you've got some LA County lifeguards on this call because of the epic individual Carly Rogers understands how important we need to have lifeguards in this conversation. So I'm out. Have a great session.
See you soon. Thanks, Chris.
Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah, well, welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm just going to take a quick moment here to say thank you to Chris and everyone behind the scenes who's made this possible. It's a privilege for us all to be here. It's an especial privilege for myself because my role today is to introduce a group of absolute legends who are, changing lives and just doing amazing things in their respective countries. So firstly, it's my privilege to introduce Ben Brondsema, an ex-police officer who, after his own experiences with post-traumatic stress disorder, founded Surfivor. Since 2019, Surfivor has been providing surf therapy for veterans, first responders, and caretakers who suffer PTSD across the Netherlands. And I'm also stoked to introduce Sam Davies and James Mallows from Surfwell, based in the United Kingdom. Sam and James are both active police officers and founded Surfwell after they identified the necessity of a new form of therapy for first responders tailored specifically to their needs. Surfwell has been providing just this since 2019. And actually, we realized today, both of you were founded in the same month in 2019. So great minds obviously think alike. There's some more in-depth bios available on the Hoover app, and I do encourage you go check out these guys' websites and check out the amazing work they do. But without further ado, let's jump into a few questions. And I'll start with yourself, Ben. Why should we use surf therapy to support police officers and other emergency service providers?
Yeah, well, first let me say that I'm quite honored that I'm on this panel today. Especially when you take in consideration that 2 years ago we had nothing. And just let me apologize in front. I am an ex-police officer and I'm struggling with PTSD. And as you probably can hear, somewhere along this journey in this panel, I probably will cry. So my excuses for that, that is just my daily life, what I have to deal with. But that aside, I'm okay with that, and I'm gonna try and answer your question. The reason why we should help police officers, and in my opinion, and James and Sam, they will talk about it later on, it's not only about police officers, it's also about people from the military, veterans, the fire department, paramedics, caretakers, whatever. But being a PTSD patient myself, I know that I have struggled in several forms of therapy, and there's always this, you have the therapist and you have the patient, and I never found my way on the therapy. And what happened to me is a friend of mine, he took me in the water and he asked me, well, Ben, it's 20 years ago, but will you surf with me today? Because I know you're struggling with your PTSD and this might help you. He had no clue that there was surf therapy. And I went in the water, and that day I found something that I haven't seen for a really long time. And that was peace in my head and a quiet brain. And that day I saw the documentary on Netflix, and it was called Resurface, and I hope I pronounced it well. And that documentary told me that there was something as surf therapy. And at that moment, I was hooked, and I knew that I had to do something for my fellow colleagues and the police. And later on that journey, we found out that we had to also serve other target groups as well. So hopefully that answers your questions, why we need to help police officers, because there are a lot. And I think, and I know for a fact that a lot of them are in search of good forms of therapy.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. And thank you for sharing. And there's a lot of love coming in for you on the chat already, which is, we say the same. It's awesome. Sam and James, same question. Why should we be using surf therapy to support police officers and first responders?
I suppose our story is kind of along the same lines, really. So Sam and I both worked together for a few years, sadly, happily, however you want to look at that. We supervised a team of response officers about 3.5, 4 years ago in North Devon, and one of our officers was assaulted to the point where that officer, she thought she was going to die. She was assaulted so badly that she just thought, there's no way out, this is it, I'm done. So fast forward slightly, we were struggling with what can we do to help her? What can we do to get this officer back in work and performing? And she, like a lot of other police officers, the stigma, there's lots of different reasons, the bravado, didn't want to engage with traditional methods of treatment. And there's a number of reasons for that, and some officers do, some don't, but this particular officer didn't want to engage with traditional forms of treatment, didn't want to go to occupational health, and had real concerns around how that would look for her. Sam and I both use surfing as a coping strategy ourselves. We had a rough day at work one day, went out for a surf together, and just said, wouldn't it be great if we could bottle this feeling and sort that out, and just this would be the perfect antidote to what that person's going through. Similar to Ben, we then had about 6-7 months worth of research, and resurfaced the Netflix movie. It was obviously really massively inspirational to us. So after a period of extensive research where we said, actually, there is such a thing as surf therapy, this is perfect for the police, this would be absolutely awesome and would work really well. There's a number of different reasons, we can go into that a bit more in detail, but we then ran a trial period for about a year, proof of concept, starting in January 2019. Same month as Ben started rolling his out, I think. And then we were really keen to have that analysed by universities, so that we all know as surfers, we know there's a great effect. We know the cold water, the rush you get from the waves, the surfing feeling, we all know about that. For the police, it was really important for us to have that academically researched. So fast forward to the end of 2019, with COVID obviously impacting slightly towards the start of 2020, we realised that actually the trauma that we face as emergency services workers is fairly consistent amongst police, fire, ambulance. And what we've really noticed through that first year of running is that a lot of the people coming along are saying, right, well, you get my issues. You're a police officer, so you understand. So you see the same things that I do. You understand where I'm coming from, and you understand my trauma. So I think we'd both say that it's based really heavily on that relatability and trust. We build that trust up so quickly with all the pathways that we put in, just, over and above going for a surf. I think you probably agree.
And it's right. It's you say why police and why emergency services, because the demand is huge. You look at all the data, certainly the data that we've got in the UK, and it's mirrored across the world. The demand on these services is massive, and the exposure to trauma is higher than in the general population in different countries. Obviously it varies, but what is common is higher across the board. So there's a crucial need there and a crucial demand for this. And it's one of the things that we've realised researching it, is that it's been adopted for other high-risk groups who are exposed to trauma, such as military veterans and things like that, but it's never, or at the time we started, it wasn't adopted in the emergency services at all. And it's one of the groups that really needs it.
Yeah, that's really, I think we can all agree that is definitely the case, and especially at the moment with everything that's going on. I know one of the questions already in the Q&A is about the impact of COVID on the long-term impact on first responder mental health, and we'll come to some of that. But I just want to ask you both, maybe Ben, we can start with you again, is we understand why surf therapy for police officers, but what does it look like, and what does it feel like to do surf therapy with police officers and first responders? It's really interesting. I know you've already mentioned that freedom that you got in your head, and James and Sam, you already started talking about a sort of safe space and things like that, which linked so well with the previous webinar, which is really exciting, seeing crossing context and things. But yeah, maybe Ben, will start with yourself. What does it look like, and what does it feel like to do surf therapy for police officers and emergency first responders?
Well, first of all, and I explained that on more people along the journey with Surfivor, and I always say, if you understand what it means to put on a uniform and serve in any way possible, serve your community or serve your country, you have a sense of belonging. You have a sense of camaraderie with the fellow colleagues that you serve with. And if you suffer from PTSD, that will eat you alive. It will it will tear you apart, and you will feel not actually abandoned, but you feel on the outside, where you normally belong to a group of people, like-minded people. You no longer are in that group of people because you're probably sitting at home and doing nothing. If I look at my mirror, and what it means for people to come to a surf therapy program, and doesn't matter which service you are in, it will instantly mean that you are in a group with like-minded people that if you look them in the eye, I know in a split second, I know what that person is feeling at that moment. Sorry guys, whoever's watching, but within that split second, the person that I look in the eye knows exactly the same from my side. And that instantly creates a bond. And what we do in a program is creating a safe space. And within 15 minutes, when the first day starts, and that is probably the day with the highest tension on every participant in the program, they feel safe because they see me as a person standing in front of the group, explaining why I am there at that moment. I want to serve them and trying to help them moving along with their PTSD. And they instantly come in a group of people that are all like-minded, and they share a feeling of, I don't have to explain what I'm feeling right now. I don't have to tell all the trauma that I've been through on that specific day. And I don't have to talk about myself if I don't want to, because the person that you are looking in the eye already knows that. And that safe space and the feeling that they don't have to creates an atmosphere that they want to. And that's, I guess, the difference with a normal therapy session, where you have the feeling that you have to talk about it because you are only there for probably an hour. But in our program from Survivor, and I know for a fact that it's the same for Surfwell in the United Kingdom, they have more time on the beach and more time in a group and don't have the feeling that they have to, but they want to. And I think that is the probably one of the best thing that our programs will offer to people who suffer from PTSD, and probably James and Sam can add something to that.
Ben, I think following on from that, we've spoken at length before about what the similarities and the differences are. And I think the key similarity, as you've said and as Jamie has said, is around that safe space and building that trust. It's really, really critical for all of our programs within the emergency services. There's a real stigma for military and people that wear the uniform, as you've said, Ben. Everyone that kind of has that background has that almost an expectation that, well, I'm the person that's supposed to be leading this, I'm the hero, and we're not saying that we're heroes, definitely not, but there's an element of, we're the protectors, we're the ones that are supposed to be indestructible, we've got a big shield on, and we're really, indestructible, we can go to all these things and we're fine, we're cool. I think what the recognition of that is that actually that's not the case. And by building that trust and that safe space without the stigma attached to having to say, I've got a problem, I need some help, or I want to go and get some help for the issues that I've got, it's really, really important. And I think one of the things that we've done, and we've spoken before and said that the key thing about surf therapy is actually it's not really about the surfing, that's the vehicles of the discussions that take place. But those discussions will only take place because of all the great physical stuff that happens in the cold water, the shared experience, the overcoming the challenge, being with a group of people that you can relax among and think, these guys and girls are all going through the same thing that I've been through. They get me, they understand, they go to the collisions, they see the injuries to children, they see all the family breakups and trauma that police and emergency services see. It's a massive shared experience before you even get into the water. And we kind of describe it as the safe management of fear. So you go on a roller coaster, you know that you're going to be petrified and you're never going to get really actually hurt, hopefully. You're going to come off that roller coaster with a fear of adrenaline surging through your body, but you're going to be safe. And that's what we try to recreate, is that safe management of that fear in the water. So by getting a group of participants to open up about what they're all individually concerned about, be it the size of the waves, the rip currents, the sharks, the water, all the different stuff that people have those fears about, by discussing that as a group initially, psychologically it's massively powerful. And I think the other week we were discussing, weren't we, Sam, about you can go to a breath exercise session or a counselling session, and they can say, okay, so when you feel yourself having a panic attack or getting really, really to the point where it's overwhelming you and those emotions are overwhelming you, try to control your breathing, try to relax and try to do that. And that's brilliant. It's a great technique. But I think what surf therapy offers is an opportunity for us to connect with the physical aspect of that and to think, right, okay, so I am actually definitely terrified here because that water's going to knock me over and I've never surfed before and I can't swim. So you can feel the adrenaline, and putting that step into practice in the water, I think gives you the opportunity to think later down the line, actually, I remember that.
It's very impactful. And I think you say, Jamie, what does it feel like to do it? It feels incredible. It feels absolutely incredible. And I think if we were honest, when we started our program and started our journey, we were quite confident that we were going to give people a positive effect and give them a boost and hopefully help them when they're in difficult times. But I don't think we really anticipated the effects that we were going to see, and it's blown us away a bit to have people come to you and say, give you the deepest stuff that they've been feeling that they've never spoken to anyone about before in their life, and to confide in you. And we've had stuff that's just been phenomenal. People telling us that they were in hospital the week before, having made an attempt to take their own life, and then coming to us a couple of weeks after they've attended the program and saying, this has just changed my life completely. I'm going in a different direction now. Thank you for everything. And it feels incredible, and it's something that we see from so many other people coming through as well, and even people we've had people come along to support others, and then in talking to them, they've then started to disclose things that they haven't talked to anyone else about. And Ben hit the nail on the head. It's that relatability is instant, and people just feel like they can communicate with you almost immediately. And these are a lot of the time complete strangers, because although we're in the same organisation, we might have never met before, because it's a very big organisation with lots of people. So a lot of the time they're complete strangers to us. But within the first 10, 15 minutes of being there, they're talking to you as if they've known you for years. And it's incredibly powerful.
It's fantastic to hear that from both of you, and things that really are aligned with the latest research and behind surf therapy and some of the latest psychology research. So it's so cool that you're seeing those sorts of things. As a researcher myself, I do have to bring up, well, I was always going to bring up an issue that actually you guys have already brought up, and that's the idea around stigma. Because the literature is very, very clear that one of the biggest barriers to accessing mental health support for frontline workers, for military veterans, for a range of these populations is mental health stigma, and you touched on it there. So maybe I could throw it back to you guys, James and Sam. What is your experience of sort of overcoming that stigma, not only on the participant level, but I imagine there's been some stigma around the acceptance of surfing as a viable therapeutic vehicle in something like the police?
It's really difficult, and I know that we've had discussions around it. And so our initial huge barrier when we first presented this was, really, take the police surfing down the beach for a nice day? You lot are joking. It's never in a million years is that going to happen. It's a lovely idea, but no, you're not going down the beach surfing. And I think, to summarise it, really, you summarised it really, really well. The key thing about surf therapy is it's not about surfing. We've been really, really, well, it is, but it's a vehicle to the discussions, isn't it? And we've been really clear from day one that it needs to be based around that therapeutic avenue, the psychological pathway, we call it. So people go through their own journey, and they need to think, actually, this is a real investment in my mental health, and it's a really, really nice experience. It leaves an imprint on their brain when they leave, which is why we're seeing 3, 4, 5 months down the line, those impacts are still there, and those life changes that they made as a result of the surf therapy are still there. And I think what's really key for us is that we take, and one of the concerns initially was, well, there's a lot of people that can't swim and can't surf, and actually we've seen the most staggering results from people who are, physical injuries, as with the military, people who can't swim, people who've got an inbuilt fear of the water, who are petrified, drowning experiences when they were children. We've had 2 or 3 people that said, I nearly drowned as a child. And just to be at the beach here looking at the sea is something that I'm absolutely petrified about. So it's stepping away from going to a clinical setting and saying, right, why, what are you suffering with PTSD for? what's happened, what incident have you seen, you can forget all that and think, I've got to overcome a physical sensation of absolute complete terror going in the water. But by overcoming that, it's massively empowering in those other areas as well. So I think the stigma is much easier to manage because those people don't have to say, well, I've got to go for counselling today and I've got to go and sit in a clinical setting and discuss my deep, dark trauma and my issues and everything that's gone on. They can kind of almost say, well, it's something that's completely different. It's a challenge, but it's a different setting.
And in going themselves as well, part of the biggest barriers that I think certainly our programme and others too probably have is getting people just to attend on the day is hard. A lot of people will find excuses not to go because they're worried about a variety of different things. But when you get them there and when you've got them there, they talk about how it was a totally different thought process to attending a counselling session or something else. And they have almost worked in their minds that they are going to learn about how to surf. That's why they're going. They're going to experience surfing. And they know that there's going to be lots of other stuff going on too. But the fact that they are rationalising it as it's not a counselling session, it's I'm going to learn how to surf, seems to be quite a big thing to help overcome a lot of those barriers of seeking help. So they feel like they're doing something else. In the back of their mind, I think most of them, most certainly the ones that we've talked to who discussed it with us, have said, I kind of knew that there was going to be loads of other stuff going on, but what got me there was the fact that I just thought, right, I'm going for a surf lesson. That's all it is. I'm not going to be talking about stuff unless I want to. And that's what's really helped them get there in the first place. And I think that is a difficult barrier to overcome with other forms of therapy.
Mental health by stealth. I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they walk away and not realise what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ben, I know you've had your own battles in trying to get, how Surfivor does things accepted by the police and by other authorities. What have you found has been key to overcoming the stigma you've experienced around using surfing as a form of therapy?
For me, that was a simple question, and that was do not stop. And I was watching previous panels yesterday, and I had Rhonda Harper saying a similar message, do not stop. And when we first started with Surfivor, the first program, I paid that with money that I collected from family and friends. And I just told to my wife, and she's the big motivator and organization part of Survivor. And I told her, well, if this one program only serves a couple of people and after that the program stops existing, at least we can say we tried it and maybe helped a few people along the way. And that message, do not stop, convinced me after the first program, well, we have to do a second one. I don't know how we're going to pay for that, but we have to do it. And we have to put on the internet and on social media that the second program is coming. Because from my inner self, if one person signs in on a program, that for me is the motivation to do not quit that program which is coming up. So we just put the second program on, and we just started that second program. And also from a previous panel yesterday evening from Jesse Billauer, and I hope I pronounce his name well, he said, and I remember that we just need people to be inspired to open up to talk about mental health. That's quite a simple message, but how you do that is very hard, and it's very important that we should do it. But coming back to the program of Survivor and struggling with the police, after starting the first program, we got some data in. And after the second program, we got some more data in. And after the third program, we had enough data to get in contact with the police and ask them, well, we have this program. We already running this program with your personnel, with police officers struggling with PTSD. How can we connect with you guys and work together, because you have much more knowledge about more participants that might show up in our program, let's work together instead of working apart from each other. And that is now in a phase, and I wish I could tell more about it, but we're still under embargo, as I told you earlier today. But in the next 2 or 3 weeks, major things will change for at least Survivor. And that's kind of hard to look back, because I think it was a month and a half ago. Sorry. Month and a half ago, that to tell the people from ISTO that it was a big chance that we as a stop doing it. We as an organization had a fairly good chance that we would stop existing, because money wasn't coming in, whether there was COVID or non-cooperative employers, I don't know, but money didn't come in anymore. And at this very moment, I can honestly say we're probably bankrupt. But by persisting and by having the confidence that things might change in the future, that convinced me and the organization, Survivor as well. Now we have to persevere, we have to go on, we have to find a way to get that money in. And in that process, at least the police came in, and now we're on a totally different platform. And if things fall in the right way, we're looking at a very bright future, and hopefully a lot of positive things for a lot of police officers that are now sitting at home struggling with their PTSD.
Thank you, Ben. And yeah, it's an exciting time. You know, those struggles, when I'm sure there are a lot of founders of surf therapy, founders potentially watching, or I know definitely there are a lot of them involved in the International Surf Therapy Organization who can relate to you about those moments where it doesn't look like it's going to work. And yeah, just keep going. And that's a fantastic message to share with people. Thank you for sharing that. I've got one more question I sort of want to discuss, and I think we'll jump on the Q&A because there's quite a few really interesting questions on there. One other aspect I just wanted to ask you about is both of your organizations create communities that seem to transcend the beach, to transcend the sessions that you run. You know, these communities seem to last and exist outside of your program sessions. And Ben, I was reading some of your research is actually involving the families of officers involved and things like that. So yeah, can you just tell us a bit, maybe with that, I'll jump back to you, Ben. Can you just tell us a bit about like how your programs have that wider effect than just what goes on at the day, and how it affects the families and the communities and the workplaces involved?
Well, that actually started by reading some of the data that you guys collected from ISTO, and also the experience that we had with the first program, that surf therapy helps. Everybody knows that. Everybody that is watching right now, that surf therapy helps for a lot of different things. I just happen to have PTSD, and the program that we run is for people with PTSD. But surf therapy, and I see it and I've heard it before, is like a medicine. But medicines you have to take on a regular dosage. So if you stop a program because it's finished, we have a 6-week program. After that, it's very important for the participants to come back in that program and get their weekly, daily dose of surf therapy. And we got a lot of questions from partners sitting at home. They were wondering what their partner was doing in our program. And we have the photos and we have the small videos that we could send around. But being there on the beach and seeing what surf therapy did for their husband or wife is such an important thing, so that families itself can share that when they go home. So we just tried it with family surf days, and we brought the kids as well to the beach and have them experience what surfing means. And the kids, they had a blast in the water. They had a really fun time. And the partners, they could talk to each other, because PTSD affects me, but also affects my wife, because For some reason, she just got a totally different husband than a couple of years ago, and we have to deal with that. There's probably a good chance that that will not change. So my wife, Celine, she has to deal with that. But being able to share her experience with other women or husbands is making her feeling confident that she's not alone in that process. She is not a person that suffers from that alone. There are a lot of partners sitting at home watching her man or woman become a totally different person without having actually the chance to change that. And so we just brought them together on the beach and created family surf days. And for the participant itself, we are creating a community where they keep in contact with each other and staying on the beach and surf. And some of them come along just for a small cup of coffee and don't even go in the water. And some of them stay surfing. And what that does is that people have a sense of belonging to a group of people that, and I've talked about that topic previously, but staying connected to Surfivor after the program ends creates a community of likewise people that they feel safe in, that they have a good experience with, and they want to come back. So that is what we do on each location that we surf.
That's awesome. I love that idea of involving the families and bringing them down. And James and Sam, you also talked about a lot of stuff about helping people get back to work and get back to where, not necessarily I think talking about PTSD in terms of getting back to where you were before is not the right way to talk about it, but in helping them get back to where they want to be with their work. Can you tell us a bit about how your program helps support that and that process, as it were?
Yeah. I think learning the coping strategies that we teach them is based around the resilience and all those things that they learn from their experience on the day in the surf. But that's when the surfing element becomes much more of a key part of their lives. We've had groups, so we're building in a peer support element. So the groups that come to our sessions for the day have all gone through that shared experience together, and then they go and experience that new sport of surfing that they've learned and really enjoyed, and they'll go and form their own smaller groups under the umbrella of the wider peer support surf club that we run through the police force. So that gives them an opportunity to put into practice and to develop their own skills as part of a new group, which is really empowering. And that sense of empowerment is what really helps them on their own new journey. So we kind of almost reset them and then point them on a new direction of being a surfer and having a group of new surfer friends that they can go surfing with. And then the next session that we build in for them, which they have as part of their therapy, will build on the skills they've learned in the first session. So that could be learning to actually physically stand or progressing out to slightly bigger waves and progressing their skill sets, which is again empowering in their own mental health and their own minds. So the peer support is a really crucial element of the actual, after they've done that day together, they go and experience the sport of surfing and they progress in their own way. And it's something that we're really keen to build in.
Yeah. It's introducing, it's almost like giving them a coping mechanism that they can access whenever they need to access it. That's kind of a lot of the ethos behind our program. So it's people who have experienced, and we have had people with PTSD and suicidal people at the very sort of upper end of that, but we also try and be a bit proactive in our program as well. So we also try and help people who aren't yet off sick but are about to go off sick, or who are in the early stages of those sort of that pathway, and we want to try and get to them before it escalates as well. And we try, and the peer support has always been something that we knew would be fundamental to that. So giving them that skill, giving them that coping mechanism, but then giving them a community they can access to encourage them to keep going with it and keep using it. So as James mentioned, we've built a surf club within the organisation to help facilitate that. But what we've also seen is splinter groups forming almost organically. So we have sessions with around 6 to 8 participants, sometimes more, but around 6 to 8 usually. And we've seen examples of where those 6 to 8 people who've never met each other before have, at the end of their couple of sessions, have gone off and formed their own little social group, and then gone off and carried on with therapy themselves and supported each other as they've gone through. And that seems to work really, really well. So we're building on how we can encourage that within the programme too.
Just removing those barriers, isn't it? So we've got a range across our geographical area, which is, I don't know, square miles, but it's Devon Cornwall, so the southwest tip of England. We've got 9 board stores. So removing those barriers so that once they've learned those initial skills, they can go and access the boards and the equipment and go out surfing as a small group individually. We can run formal and informal peer support days. And those days are where you get a lot of the kind of people meeting up and going, oh, we went through this together a few months ago. Haven't we changed? Haven't we come a long way together? And it kind of reinforces that initial stuff that happened when they first attended that therapy session. And then they obviously get they feel the stoke of the surfing and they go out and do it together, which is just brilliant. It's great. Yeah.
Excuse my researcher mind, but I love that theme that's emerging there around consistency. And again, it was something that came up in the previous webinar. One of the Ways to Change coaches talked about the importance of consistency, and again, seeing it come up, in the context of a totally different surf therapy program is absolutely fascinating. Just before time sort of creeps up on us, there's a couple of really cool questions in the box. What I will say to everyone is if we don't get to your question, don't worry. We'll make sure we do a typed up answer or something afterwards, but we'll try and get through as many as we can. And the first question I've got is integrating surf therapy into the police force as police officers is an excellent way to get surf therapy recognized and prescribed. What's the buy-in to surf therapy at a national level within police forces? And can you see a day where they prescribe surf therapy for their officers? I mean, would either of you like to jump?
I think so. So from our point of view, we're really excited that we're at a point now where we're about to expand into our next phase. We've done that proof of concept phase that we said. We've experienced trial sessions with ambulance, with fire, and with other emergency services who've come down to see what we do. And we're at the point now where we are considering a potential operating model at a national level. We're not quite there yet, but that's the next pathway that we're looking at, and that's something that we are actively looking at. And without shamelessly touting, our website probably is a quicker way to look at that. And I know, Ben, you've got it on yours. So surfwell.com or .co.uk has got details around how that may work and how that's looking. But yeah, that's certainly something that we're really excited to be part of.
And in a way, I guess, it is almost happening within the programme. So you talk about, police officers receiving surf therapy on prescription. It's not on prescription because the routine isn't through a GP, but it is through the organisation itself. So every serving member of staff and sworn officer within our organisation can access our programme by contacting us and saying that they have a desire. And there's processes that we put in place to make sure that we see the most needy within our organisation first, and all that, which take a while to explain. But we're all almost operating at that stage where people are receiving it as a form of therapy from the organisation as a service to them.
Ben, I don't want you to break any embargoes or anything like that, but yeah, can you see a day where surf therapy is prescribed in the Netherlands?
Yeah, I can see that. I definitely can see that day, and that is the major thing that we are working on right now with Dutch police force. And we're not in the safe yet, but things are looking good. And so yeah, probably in the near future we can see that day happening. And I think it's good to say and notice that that will come along the normal kind of therapy. But if that day happens, that will include the doctors and the psychotherapist as well. So that day is not here yet to come, but it's not going to take a long time, I guess.
I love that, integrating, what is the established form of care and supplementing each other and supporting each other. It's helping them to overcome those barriers we've already discussed. People accessing that it seems like a valuable role that surf therapy can also play. This isn't a question someone's written in, it's a question I have, but I'm the moderator, so my rules. And you're going to see why it's a biased question. In getting surf therapy to that place where we all want to see it, both for police officers, emergency service workers, and sort of everyone, what is the role of evaluation, research, data, stuff like that? Ben, I know you've used the ISTO evaluation framework. Team Surfwell, I know you've collaborated with Exeter University. I mean, what is the role of evaluation to help us achieve that goal?
I think it's, sorry, Ben, you go.
Oh, you guys go.
I was just going to say, I think it's fundamental to setting it up. We've obviously set it up within our organisation, but it took a huge amount of work to convince our organisation that this was something that needed to take place and that there was an evidence base to show that it's effective. So I think every public service and public organisation, like whether it's police or ambulance or fire, any emergency service, they need to know that there's an evidence base behind this before they commit to it for their staff. So I think for us, having the university on board and having that study take place is absolutely fundamental to showing these organisations that this is a valid method of therapy and it can achieve the results it can achieve.
Yeah, same here. I think the only reason why we were a serious partner to talk with, and I'm talking about the Dutch police force right now, is the fact that we had evaluated our program. And for us as an organization, the evaluation form is also a way to make each new program better than the previous one. And but evaluation is key to grow as an organization and to be a serious partner to talk with. And whether that is for endorsements or if you're writing grants, or in our case, if you want to speak to a police force, or maybe in the future also with the military, without any good evaluation, there's no way you are a serious partner to talk with.
Perfect. Great answers both. Another question we've got in is, firstly, a big thank you for taking care of our first responders. That's to you guys. And yeah, I repeat that. I can repeat that over and over till we're finished. Thank you so much. What kind of long-term effect do you think the COVID-19 pandemic will have on first responders? And should existing surf therapy programs that do not already serve this population explore adapting their programs to serve first responders?
So yeah, I mean, we've done some work in our area and kind of across the southwest in relation to the impact, and I know that certain agencies and certain partner agencies within the NHS and ambulance are planning for a long-term impact on their staff. You've only got to read the news and you see the impact the burden that children are carrying and how long it's going to impact them for. So they're the next generation that are going to go to work, and in 10, 15 years time, we don't know what impact it's going to have on them. It's been life-changing in some areas for some people. So I think in answer to that simply is it is going to be a significant impact purely from the traumatic stuff that the doctors and the nurses are seeing in the critical care departments. And we've taken some members of critical care departments out on our surf therapy program. And some of the stuff that you're hearing from them is going to be a long-term, almost like a warlike impact. It's the decisions they're having to make on an operational basis are quite staggering, really, and to put pressure on those people and say there's not going to have an impact is kind of dark, really. It's going to be for years. And across the board, obviously, we've got families, some police officers that we know from this station were living in a caravan for 3 or 4 months on the drive, not seeing their families because they were so worried at the peak of the pandemic, first time, that they didn't want to come home and infect their families. So there's a whole load of different impacts, and it's not always as simple as the trauma of physically seeing and dealing with the destruction and the issues that have happened in hospitals. It's that wider effect as well. So I think surf therapy obviously will have an impact. It's action centre therapy, isn't it? It's taking people out and giving them a comfort zone and an escape from all that kind of stuff. We've seen it firsthand with some of the people that we've seen out. So I think it will be something that we should build into any recovery program.
It's difficult because I think, the more the better. The more surf therapy programs that can try and meet that demand and accommodate that demographic, the better, because they need help now. They needed help before COVID. That was clear, and they're going to need even more help now as a result of it. So the more surf therapy programs that can do that, the better. I think the only caveat I'd be sort of conscious to put on that is what's clear from what Ben has said and what we feel is that having those relatable people within your surf therapy program, so you immediately break down those barriers to the communication and to people attending your program, is fairly fundamental from our point of view. So there may be ways that other programs could look to include those people as instructors, so they've got that peer support and that relatability in their program going forward. But yeah, if they can do that, then the more the better, I think.
And I can answer that from a point of view as a person who suffers from PTSD. And I think James and Sam already explained what it means to an organization. But for me, having PTSD is when you see me or I speak to you, I'm in a stage that I'm doing all right. Not good, but all right. Then you will see me. Then I will go out and have social contacts. But if I'm in a down phase, and that happens quite a lot recently due to COVID, you won't hear me and you won't see me. But then is the time that I need help the most. And what social distancing is doing right now is putting people that are going through a really rough time in a situation where social contact isn't normal anymore. And because everybody is going through that stage, also the normal people are forgetting about people like me and so many others. They are sitting at home, social distancing, and having hardly any social contact, but going through probably the hardest time that they've been in since a really long time. And that knowledge that drove us as an organization in the beginning of COVID to trying to convince the local health authorities that we as a program needed to start back up on the beach. And as I explained what the benefits were of the program, was also the negative side if we didn't start up, and what will happen with probably a lot of people, and I'm talking about possible suicides. They give us the permission to start back up. So already the program from Survivor started back up in last May, but that is because people like me who have PTSD are going through a really hard time at the moment. And I think we have not even seen the top of the iceberg with the problems coming ahead. And I only hope that Survivor and Surfwell, and I hope many other organizations around the world are ready for that peak to show up in probably the next 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, I see that almost as a challenge to people to if you're thinking about doing this in your own country or context, these guys have told you what to do. Just go for it. Keep going with it, even when it doesn't look so hot. Just keep going with it. I think we've got time for one last question, and there's quite a funny one here, which I think would be fun to finish on. And that is, cops and surfers seem to be on the opposite philosophical sides of the street. Where do they have more common? Where do they have more common than it might first appear?
Well, we're doing this with no shoes on. We're trying to sit miles apart, but we've got no shoes on. Yeah, no, we do get that quite a lot, actually. I think the easy answer to that, in a serious note, is cops, police. We're all human as well. That is exactly the nail on the head around the stigma, is that people see, and we get it with friends. They're like, "Oh, you're in the police. We better watch what we say. We better not drive too fast." All that kind of stuff. We get all that. A police officer walks in uniform, and there's immediately a certain kind of atmosphere. But we're all the same. We go surfing. We've been surfing. We finish work, and we're literally straight out, oars on the van, and we're down the beach. And you never know what job we do. So I think that's kind of cool to have those two crossovers, because you can kind of relate to those different areas. But yeah, there's definitely a perception. And we said it first, we don't want to appear to be a group of people just rocking up at the beach in a camper van, taking kids, guys out for a surf. It's a funny one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think
Point Break. I'm annoyed there's no Point Break reference.
No Point Break. I was going to try and squeeze that in. Yeah, lawyers don't surf is the only thing I can think of, which is quite the same. But I think, on face value, you could take the view, well, surfers are this group and this is how they behave and this is what they do, and police are this group and they're very different. But actually, like James alluded to, when you're down the beach and you see 100 people, 200 people in the water in wetsuits, it's amazing. If you were to canvass that group and find out what they all do for a living, I think there'd be a lot of raised eyebrows and a lot of surprise for people. And actually, we're all a lot more similar than people realise, I think.
Ben, do you have anything to add to that one?
If he shows us a Point Break picture.
Well, I'm actually growing my hair long on purposely, just trying to create that typical surf look. No, I think that if you have a real close look, we have a lot more in common that people think, and especially people from the front line, they need a way to get their head straightened out after a hard day at work or a hard month at work. And if we can convince them that surfing is a great way to do that, then we probably already established one great thing. And I just have to come and surf well. I don't know who took that picture, but they put it on social media, and people try to search for that photo. They placed a photo of a hat of one of the bobbies, put it on a longboard on the beach. And that photograph says it all to me. That means that people in a uniform must go out and surf because it might save their life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Final question from me, and you can answer yes, no, or no comment. Would you consider using the blue lights to get to the surf quicker?
Unofficially, yes.
It would be great to have blue lights on the surfboard. That's what we hear more. That's where I thought you were going with that. It's blue lights on the surfboard. But no.
And I have to say no, because I got medically discharged almost a year ago, so I don't have any blue lights anymore. But I'm in the lucky circumstance that I live really close to the beach, so no need for me to put on the blue lights.
Perfect. Well, once again, I just want to thank you all for sharing with us so openly, sharing us about your work and why you think it works. I'm sorry to everyone whose questions we didn't get down to. We will try and answer those, promptly, directly via the Hoover app. And yeah, just a massive thank you to all of you for tuning in and listening. Chris, back to you.
Can
Hi,
I just
everybody.
say one quick thing?
Absolutely.
That if there's any question from anybody who's watching, I know for a fact that James and Sam, including myself, are more than happy to answer the questions if you shoot us a question on social media or email, whatever.
Yeah,
Just
definitely.
send me the question and we will answer that.
Definitely. If there's anyone watching who is trying to set up their own program, certainly internally within their own organization or anything similar, the whole ethos of ISTA about sharing our learning together and everything, we absolutely love that. And if you want to get in touch with us, we'll tell you about the barriers we've had to overcome, what we've done to overcome those barriers and get our program established. We'd love to share that with everyone. So yeah, just get in touch.
So impactful, gentlemen, and thank you for reminding us that yes, you're human. There's obviously a lot of social unrest here in the United States, and lots of controversy there, but very quickly, James, you're actually the second practitioner to say surfing is merely the vehicle. Krista Davis from Live for More said that last night. And I appreciate that because actually Jamie reminds us of this all the time. There's such a difference between us individually going out and surfing versus surf therapy programs. Surf therapy programs, they're organized, they consist of staff and volunteers and participants, and there's so much that goes into behind the scenes, including funding and creating these safe spaces. So it's more than just surfing by yourself. So I totally agree, and I love that you brought that up. Although we as surfers, we get our own therapy when we're out there, but it's definitely different. The programs there's a method to the madness, and we're so grateful that you're doing what you're doing. I'm going to try not to get choked up either. Thank you for joining us this year. Hopefully in person soon, everybody. Hugs to you. We are thinking about you, sending you good wishes, and hopefully we will all be there in 2021 because there's a Europe ISTO conference happening, I think, yes, in July. So all the Europe teams are coming together. So looking forward to seeing you. And thanks again, attendees. If you're attending our next session, we're going to start at 7:05. And it's our last one before our break. Don't miss it. Incredible, another incredible panel of epic individuals making big differences all across the globe. Ben, James, Sam, and Jamie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Rock
Thanks, Chris.
stars.